Have you ever wanted to take your miniatures out and about and thought to yourself, damn, this carry case that I've got is way too practical? Well, today we've teamed up with the legends at ArcWorlde to take one of their brand new warbands and build its own custom themed box for transport. They've been going for about 12 years, they have their own minis, they have their own world, and they have their own game system. And more importantly, they got their own style. These Gremlins are from their currently running Kickstarter, and I've been fortunate enough to get some sent for this project. If you're familiar with this channel, then you know I'm not much of a painter's painter. I don't really speak the language, or have the theory or the practice, so I don't often give technical painting advice. But I will share what I did here to get these guys all box fresh in one afternoon. And over a base coat of what I would describe as a nutty brown, I went in with a random assortment of relevant speed paints, if you can be randomly relevant. Because all our Gremlins are special and no two should be exactly the same. To further reinforce this, I didn't have any particular standardized recipe or method. I just daubed a load of paint, relevant paint at least, paints that I thought would fit this weird little gremlin world, and I slammed them all on the wet palette. Then I just started mixing and painting and building lighter colours by mixing them together as we highlighted up. Some Gremlins I kept with a luminous nuclear vomit green progression. Other Gremlins I went super desaturated and almost pale grey. But I made sure there was always a little something in common between them, either throwing in a little bit of the same yellow into the mix, or using the same greeny grey to make it brighter. Since they're not especially convoluted or time-consuming models, I did each one at a time, to keep them a little fresh and a little bit different from each other, a little bit fresh and funky. Yeah, I blasted through these pretty quick and aimed to be a little bit more accurate and blend, more than I normally would. My MS arm fatigue normally caps a miniature painting session like this at about 4 hours, so I like to work quick and sketchy where I can anyway, but these turned out better than I expected. Okay, so before we move on to making our, what I guess is like a troop transport, I would like to talk about where these little gremlins come from. Well, they're from a company called Warp Miniatures, which I assume some of you will be very familiar with. And they have this groovy little fantasy setting called ArcWorlde, which is like a darkly whimsical fantasy skirmish game. ArcWorlde is normally one of those stands and games that I see pretty much at every convention, and me and wonderful wife normally go away with some cute little frog miniatures to go in our ever-increasing pile of cute little frog miniatures at home. If you are interested in getting into ArcWorlde or seeing what it's all about, then these miniatures specifically, which are like a preview thing, they're running a Kickstarter right now for these miniatures, which are a preview thing. As you can see, these minis are frighteningly crisp on detail, and as far as I'm aware, this is all hand cast by Alex Huntley and his family, which is kind of a nuts little setup, to be honest, to get results like this. And that is the level of presentation that pretty much persists throughout ArcWorlde. Like, if you've been to a show and hefted the ArcWorlde compendium with its gilded edges, you know what I'm talking about. So, check that Kickstarter out. If that's not your bag, I will leave a load of helpful links down below, which will kind of serve as an introduction to ArcWorlde. So, links to the shop, which is all designed and made in the UK. And also for any learning resources to see if it's your kind of game. I'm deeply concerned that this might be my kind of game. But I got a faction done now. I got a faction starter done. So anyway, with that in mind, I should get back to making this box. Some time dilation going on there.
So what is it?
Okay, our gremlin chariot awaits. This is a £3 craft box from the works. Ridiculously cheap, and one would therefore assume would be ridiculously easy to pull apart. Not so. I want to pull this guy apart, firstly so that I can actually get inside it and work inside it, but also so instead of just the lid lifting off, the front also has hinges and folds down to reveal the gremlins easier. And to hold our gremlins in place, we have magnetic magic sheet paper, which doesn't seem to be magnetic. No. What the fuck? Yeah, so going back to basics and placing metal discs where we wanted our magnetized bases to sit. Yeah, that's a tenner wasted. Maybe Hector can start making his own magnets with them sheets now. Ground formation is handled with sculptor mold, as per usual with me. This stuff is my ghetto homebrew recipe with newspaper pulp and plaster. Okay, so also helping out on this video is Gatehouse Gaming, who I assumed would have been in the northeast of England with a product like this. Away, Palms. Away. But this is a Scenics manufacturer based in Huddersfield. Yeah, they got in touch during the UK Games Expo and said that they would like to collaborate on something. So after pissing the bed with the ArcWorlde lads and getting myself into this quick turnaround project, I gave them a call. I'll be using their ground cover, specifically swamplands and scrublands. But also they sent over a load of 3D printed bits that they make. I think they design and print in-house. So plants, gribbly spiders, more plants, mushrooms, ferny plants, just everything that a gremlin cave you would expect a gremlin cave to have, if it was like on Rightmove or something. Of course, you can absolutely sub this stuff out with fish tank plants if you're on a budget, or fake plastic ivy or whatever. And if I had more time to make it look good, I probably would have done that myself. As a juicy bonus, before all this more fragile stuff goes on, I'm going to stick on some 0.4mm green LEDs onto these tree armatures and run them out to the bottom of the box. It's touch and go whether these will actually survive the process, but it'll be a nice bonus if they do actually turn on at the end. And then I apply about 50 quid's worth of sterling mud to cover the wires up. Painting up our little staging area is going to be an easy one, or it would be if I hadn't just monumentally fucked the job off screen. Yeah. So when dealing with sculptor mold or modeling compound, it is fairly important before, applying paint directly to it, to give it a coat of PVA glue or some kind of sealant, or at the very least go really heavy with the painting. Otherwise you'll be in a situation where whatever you glue to it with super glue will have a habit of falling off really easily and taking a thin layer of plaster with it. Yeah. So yes, I did paint everything once, then realized to get all this foliage to actually glue on and stay in place and not keep falling off, we were going to need a shitload of glue. So much glue, in fact, that the whole thing, I just had to start again with painting. And quick reminder to my future self or past self that when adding ground cover to these things with perfectly flush sockets for our miniature bases, not to fill the perfectly flush sockets with sand and glue. Yes, very clever. A soaking with rubbing alcohol will hold everything in place temporarily. And we'll do our gremlin bases at the same time, so we know that everything's going to match up when we put it together. And then a soak in with watered down PVA to lock everything into place and dry overnight. So once again, I am dry brushing our rock walls, or, back to how they were basically before I ruined everything. And normally I would dry brush the floor too, but given how much time I've already spent gluing this stuff back on, I don't want any breakages. So I'm going to sketch on some white with the gallery airbrush. Yeah, the longer I can go without touching this foliage, the better. Then I'm going back in with a brown speed paint to get rid of all the white overspill, and also around the edges where, the blending of the ground cover and the walls doesn't quite match up. Yeah, this is where we just make that nice and seamless. As a finishing touch, we are going to stain this cheap balsa box to give it a little bit more wanky prestige. And speaking of wanky, we're going to slam our wanky hinges back on. And we're going to add a lovely little finishing touch sent over by Big John Hayland from Hayland Terrain. He's got an acrylic cutter thing, and he really wanted to use his acrylic cutter to help out on this project. And, you know, legit, like, that does look real sick. Thanks a million to ArcWorlde for this last minute collaboration. Go check out them Gremlins and all the links down below. Also check out Gatehouse Gaming for their awesome textures and 3D printed bits and bobs. And also check out Big John Hayland at Hayland Terrain as well. Yeah, considering this project needed to be chewed out in like 4 days, a hell of a lot of people somehow got involved to make it all work. And of course, thank you to my wonderful Patreon community for their ongoing support. Without you guys, this channel wouldn't actually be here. So thank you kindly for letting me be here. And I will see you all next time as I try and paint 2 Warhammer armies in 24 hours.
Oh boy.
Cheers. I'm out of here.